This is RiverTalks with Jonathan Brush, President and CEO of Unbound.
So take a little historical trip with me. Battle of Fredericksburg, 1862, I believe. The Union has come off of a series of defeat after defeat after defeat. In fact, there's been no real major victories. Antietam was declared a victory because there was no real other hope for it. It stopped an invasion, but really, tactically and strategically, it didn't go so well for the Union either. So in the Eastern Front, which is the really important part of the war, nothing is happening that is good from the Union perspective. Lincoln is rotating through a series of incompetent commanders, and he's now appointed General Burnside to be in charge of the Union Army. It's now the middle of winter when armies don't typically move. Burnside steals the march. He takes the Union Army towards Fredericksburg. He arrives at Fredericksburg, and he's sitting on the other side of the Rappahannock River. Now, this is very interesting to me. I live not very far from Fredericksburg now. I grew up even closer to Fredericksburg, and I have several grandfathers, however many grandfathers, who fought in this particular engagement. So it has a particular historical interest to me, and I have some in-depth knowledge of the battle. So you have Burnside sitting on the other side of the Rappahannock River, looking at the heights and the town of Fredericksburg. And one of his generals, General Hancock, comes up to him and says, "Sir, let me congratulate you. If we cross the river, we will have won the war. We will cut off Bobby Lee from Richmond. We'll be able to deal with him at our leisure. We'll be able to march on the capital. We have a Union Army down in the neck that'll come up. We'll pinch the capital in between. Congratulations. Let me send the skirmishers across the river." And Burnside says, "No, General, don't send them across the river yet. That's not according to the plan. The plan is that we're going to wait for the pontoons to come up so the engineers can fasten the pontoons and we can cross the river with dry feet." And Hancock says, "Sir, that's fine for the rest of the army and the supplies, but if you let me throw skirmishers across the river, we could at least hold the heights in case Lee sneaks up on us." And Burnside says, no need. Everything is going according to plan." Hancock's frustrated, walks outside of headquarters, looks down the river, sees cattle crossing the river, and the water is only knee deep. There's a ford that they didn't know about just down from where the army is currently encamped. He rushes back to headquarters. He tells Burnside, "Sir, we can cross the army right now. They will get wet feet, but we can get even the wagons across. The horses can pull the supplies across. We will have won the war." Burnside says, "No, we're going to wait according to plan. We'll wait for the pontoons." Hancock is inexpressibly frustrated, but orders are orders. He waits. It takes the pontoons almost 4 weeks to get into place. During that time, Lee occupies the heights. Stonewall takes one flank, Longstreet takes the other. And Hancock observes that they're now going to have to cross a killing field, a flat plain on the other side of the river, undershot, undershell from the entire Confederate army. If they're going to take the heights, it'll be at great cost. And there's another problem. At the height of the charge, after coming across the entire field, when they're going to make the last desperate effort to get into the battlements that Lee is now thrown up inside of Fredericksburg, there's a canal. And Hancock comes and says, "Sir, there's a canal in the middle of town." And Burnside says, "No, there is not. The engineers said there is no such thing." And Hancock says, "I'm looking at the canal in my binoculars." And Burnside said, "There is no canal." The Union Army does cross the river. They're shelled and slaughtered the whole way across the field. They make the final charge. They perform with great valor, but they get stuck at the canal. Confederate artillery is ranging down the canal, slaughters many men. The attack falters, stops, stalls. In the dead of winter, the men are trapped in their positions overnight, many dying of exposure, and then they slink away, and the next morning retreat back across the river. It's an absolutely, utterly frustrating tale of extreme authoritarian stupidity that not only slaughters a whole bunch of gallant men, but does so in a way that leads to countless additional slaughter since the wars are not indeed ended. Now, I know of that battle because of the reasons I stated earlier. And in the past, I might have been tempted to imagine myself as one of the people on the winning side, or I might have imagined myself at least as Hancock, smart enough to say, "Sir, why don't we cross where the cattle are crossing? Sir, don't forget about the canal." But as I've gotten older, I have a different thought. I want to know how you become Burnside. How is it that you can get to the point where you are presented with empirical evidence of the most outstanding quality of information, that reality is staring you right in the face, and you say, "No, we will act according to plan. Now I know. Burnside was acting because he wanted to cover his tail. It was the polite way of putting that. He said, this is the president plan that was approved. He wanted to have fallbacks. There was an act of cowardice. And I understand some of that. What are the things that happened earlier in Burnside's life that put him in a position that in the most pivotal point of his entire life and the most pivotal point of his career, at a time where his actions were literally the difference between life and death, when they had vast historical consequences for generations to come, that he failed and failed utterly, even when presented with empirical evidence to the contrary of his chosen course of action? How does one become Burnside? I think that's a critical question that we have to ask ourselves again and again. What little decisions am I making today? What things am I learning? What thought patterns am I developing? Are they the kind that will allow us to be Hancock and be able to seize the opportunity? Or will they be the kind of decision that lead me to become Burnside? When even faced with evidence to the contrary, make a stupid decision that might cost opportunity, might even cost lives, might even spoil the purpose of your own life.